Hello everyone, welcome to 27. Today we're going to be looking at a Porsche 964 C2 and a 968 Club Sport. Now the reason why I'm looking at these two cars is, first of all, I quite fancy doing a comparison between them, but also a couple of weeks ago I did a video where I compared a 968 Sport versus a modern Golf GTI, and I was pretty much expecting that the 968 Sport, for a classic car enthusiast like me, would completely wipe the floor off the modern Golf GTI. It didn't. And there were a few questions, and a few people pointed out that maybe I hadn't driven the 968 for long enough or hard enough. Plus it wasn't the actual Club Sport, it was the Sport version, and there are more differences between them than I realised. So, really worth doing. Plus, really good to revisit a 964 C2. And at the time, these cars were pretty much the same sort of years. They were both early 90s, so they were genuine options. Obviously, the 964 C2 was a lot more expensive than the 968 Club Sport. This particular Club Sport actually has Koni adjustables on it. All the suspension has been rebushed, the geometry has been done as well. So it is pretty much up to scratch, if not totally standard. Whereas the 964 C2 is pretty much a standard car all round. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's go. So we're starting off in the 968, and you'll notice that there's someone in the car with me. This is Philip Raby. He's from Philip Raby Porsche, based in Chichester in the south of England, and he's very kindly offered me the use of both these cars today. They're both for sale at his premises, so thank you very much, Phil. Phil is also actually a really knowledgeable guy on Porsches. Not only has he been selling them for years, but before that he was a journalist and used to regularly contribute and I think helped to fund and to start Total 911.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so he really knows his onions, and we're going to see how the 968 fares. It's quite a big feeling car, even though in reality it isn't, but it does actually feel bigger than it is. This CS does feel a little bit better than the Sport that I drove a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if that's because it's lighter or whatever. I think the seats, I know it sounds silly, but they play a huge part in that. The seats in the Sport that I drove before, they were just so soft and squidgy. I don't know if maybe they had been reupholstered and they had some of the, some sort of softer foam that had been put in them. But having these buckets immediately makes the car feel much more sort of lively, and you get more feedback. It just feels more precise and settled. Having said that, still I've been driving it a little bit around today. I'm still not totally in love with it, really. What do you think of them, Phil?
Well, I know where you're coming from. It does feel like a big car on the road, especially on these little country lanes.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why, because it's not a big car by modern standards, is it?
It's not. I don't know what it is, but certainly the steering feels better on this, and Dave did say that his car had, I think, a steering knuckle that probably needed to be replaced. And now the gearbox it's quite long throw. It's got a little bit of play in it, and I don't know if that's just because it's got a few miles or if they were like that, but it's nice and it works quite well.
Yeah, it's a nice gearbox, and I think by modern standards it probably is quite a long throw.
Yeah.
I don't even get a short shifter on it, but personally I leave it as it is.
So Phil, you know Walter Rolls supposedly said that at the time anyway, this was the best handling Porsche that Porsche had ever made. What do you think about that comment?
I suspect he was probably right. I mean, it depends what you mean by best handling. I mean, from a technical point of view, it handles better than a 911.
Yeah.
The balance is more,
yeah.
the weight distribution is better. But I would still say a 911 911 is probably more fun to drive.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. It doesn't feel quite as good as a 911, even though technically speaking the handling is probably better. Now looks wise, I'm not really sure what to make out of these. Some people love them, I think you do as well. I do like them, but I think I prefer a good old-fashioned 944 for looks. So they were a bit meatier and a bit more balanced as a design. You can kind of see that the front and back, although they've done it very well, you can kind of see they've been grafted on.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think the 944 is looking quite dated now, though. But then there's something cool about that 80s muscle car look. What's this? I think they did a fantastic job of updating it. And especially the rear end, I think looks so much more modern. Are you enjoying this now, aren't you?
You got me. I am actually liking it more.
It does grow on you.
We'll do another level run on this road because I am liking it a little bit more. It's quite nice for a 4-cylinder as well. It sounds nice, doesn't it? That was the thing when I drove the Golf a couple of weeks ago. I mean, it was impressive and it was better than I thought, but God, the engine was just, it sounded horrid. This has got a bit of character for a 4-cylinder.
It does. It's a very clever design. You almost wouldn't know it was a 4-cylinder.
Actually, you know, you're right. It's growing on me a bit. I don't really know how to describe what I like about it though. Probably because I am a ham-fisted normal bloke and not a professional road tester. But once you get it in a corner, the front feels like it's rock solid, and then you can kind of feel the back like it's playful.
And you can play with the throttle on the corners, and it does respond really well.
Yeah. So I guess that is what it's all about. It's just, I think that the on the limit handling, although I haven't been driving it that quick, but the on the limit handling is just right, I suppose. It's quite easy to drive close to the limit. That's where the beauty of these cars really is.
I think that's the key. It's a bit like a Cayman. It's an easy car to drive fast. Whereas a 911 is not such an easy car to drive fast.
But you know the difference I found? So I drove a Cayman again through you that you had, and I adored it. But what I found about that Cayman was that you could drive it almost at any speed and enjoy it. You didn't have to get it close to the limit of adhesion. Whereas I do find that with this, it only really seems to come alive when you're driving it properly quickly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because then, you know, if you're getting close to the limit, that's where I think it shines, and that's why I didn't feel it in the other car, I think.
That's very true. I think it's like a 944 as well. They almost feel a bit dead at low revs and low speeds. But
exactly.
Make an effort, it comes alive, and it's brilliant.
They do feel a bit dead unless you're really, really pushing them. And a few people in the other video that I did said, you know, you just probably weren't driving it hard enough to make the most of it.
I'm sure that's true. You do.
Okay, well, we're going to take the 911 out now, the 964. Let's see how I get on with that. Right, Phil, so both the 964 and the 968, they were cars that a potential buyer would have gone into the Porsche showroom and he would have seen both, so could have possibly been interested in buying either car, although the 964 was about 45 grand, we think. We're not 100% sure, right?
Yeah, that's right, maybe a little bit more, that sort of figure.
Maybe a little bit more, and the 968 Club Sport, which was actually cheaper than the normal one, that was, we think, around 25?
Yeah, something like that. We're guessing, aren't we? But
so
yes,
it was
substantially cheaper.
Quite a bit different. I mean, the first thing is, from getting in and driving it, I'm quite familiar with these, but it feels so much more solid, you know, as a car than a 968. It feels like a much more quality product. And it's got just those lovely sort of Porsche qualities. The engine is a peach. We were talking earlier, but you know, some people don't like 964 six-cylinder engines, the 3.6. I don't understand it. I think it's a perfect engine.
Fantastic engine. It makes a lovely sound. It's got loads of torque, plenty of power.
It still likes to rev. I mean, what is wrong with it? I just don't get it. I think certainly it's a hell of a lot nicer than that, you know, the 3-litre 4-cylinder, which there's nothing wrong with, but it is a 4-cylinder. This has got, you know, it feels more refined. It just feels more grown up. It's got more torque. So it's amazing. You can really feel the weight in the back of the car, in the sense that when you put this in a corner, I mean, in isolation maybe you wouldn't notice it, but when you put it in a corner, it does almost feel like like initially anyway, on turning it wants to push on a little bit and then it tucks in. Whereas the 968 was definitely much more neutral. But this is just it's just so nice. They are unlike any other car, these 911s. The way they feel is just unique, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean the 968 is an easier car to drive fast. Anybody could jump into that 968 and push it to the limit. Whereas I think a 911 you need to learn to drive it, and you're always learning new things on the 911. And they always end up putting a grin on your face.
Yeah. So I do think the steering rack is a bit quicker on this, but in actual fact, in terms of then turning into the corner, the 968 is better in that way. It's happier to turn in, and that's simply because it's got, it doesn't have the weight chucked in the back, I think. But the overall feel of these is just, it's so much more than just driving them at the limit. We could just drive it around at these speeds all day and I would still enjoy it, whereas the 968, it really, as you said, it only came alive when I was thrashing it. Otherwise, it doesn't feel very special at all. It's amazing how compliant it is on the road, because as I said, I don't think I've ever driven a standard one of these. And it's actually, it almost feels like a tourer. It's so comfortable. I mean, the suspension's brilliant. The engine is, totally unstressed.
But it is a car you can jump in this and drive to Scotland tomorrow.
You could, couldn't
and
you?
you'd be perfectly comfortable on the whole journey. But also, you get onto a country road like this, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Even with this standard suspension.
I can see where a 968 is more fun though, and I suppose that's on the limit. It's easier, as you said, to drive, and also it's more willing to turn into corners than this is. It does feel like a sort of cheaper, but in some ways a more fun car, but with less depth. I think, this is something that will keep on rewarding and rewarding. The 968, it's just a fun car. It would make a better weekend car, and I think this would make a better sort of day-to-day usable car.
Yeah, I think if you wanted a car just to do track days in, the 968 Club Sport is hard to beat. But this is a car you can live with every day, and it does everything.
It does.
It's a touring car, it's a track car for country roads, and it looks great too.
They do well. That's one thing that's just unbeatable. This is the last air-cooled 911 to still look like an air-cooled 911, isn't it? And that silhouette and everything, it's irreplaceable.
And that's why everybody wants 964s at the moment. Everyone loves the look of the upright headlamps.
Well, that's great. It's been really good fun. I'm glad that I have managed to re-evaluate the 968, and I think before maybe I wasn't driving it fast enough to really appreciate what it is that makes those cars stand out. So definitely newfound respect for the 968. I do really like that Club Sport. Having said that, overall I do still prefer the 911. Of course, if you're going to buy one of these are both for sale over at Phil's place. This is up for about 45k, whereas the 968 is up for 30. I think, is that right, Phil?
So there's quite a difference between them.
So there is quite a difference between them, and obviously, is this worth another 15 grand? Well, it is.
Absolutely.
And especially if this is what you want. If you want a 911 and you want that shape and you want the way a 911 feels, for sure. But the 968 is a massive amount of fun. Phil, thank you so much for letting me use your cars today.
A pleasure.
I really appreciate it. We've had a laugh. We'll do this again soon. Thank you all for watching. Please make sure you subscribe. Give us your comments. What do you think? Which one of these cars would you take? But yeah, overall, 964, which is probably no surprise to all of you since I already have one. See you soon.